And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the Jeff Mara Podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Darryl Anka, the internationally renowned channel for Bashar, the extraterrestrial being from a parallel future reality who has been sharing profound teachings on manifestation, parallel realities, personal empowerment, and humanity's upcoming shifts for over 40 years. Darryl, welcome back. It's great to have you again.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
If you just turn on the news, you will realize we are living in exciting times right now. And
it's an understatement.
Yes. So where do you think the human consciousness is actually going? And what has Bashar predicted for 2026?
Well, he's basically called this the year of disclosure. And that not only refers to the idea of more information coming out about UFOs and ETs, but also the idea that what has been kept secret or hidden on a lot of different levels in our society, as we can now see, is also starting to see the light of day. Things that people have been trying to hide, things that, have been secrets for years, are now coming out and being examined and being explored. And I think this is all for the purpose of getting everything out on the table so we can finally decide, what kind of a world do we really want to move forward into? How do we stop these kinds of negative things from happening in the future? So this is all about exposing consequential secrets, bringing more information out to the public so that we have more options to decide how we want to move forward.
Well, since things have been pretty dark out there, is this giving us a choice? Like, do we want this or do we want a bright future?
Yeah, exactly. In other words, it's much easier to understand what you do prefer by having what you don't prefer shown to you so blatantly. So the stronger the negative side is, the easier it is to say, okay, let's finally do something about making sure that these kinds of negative things don't happen again. Let's try to connect. Let's try to communicate. Let's try to really dig deeper and figure out what the causes of these things are, because it's past time to just treat the symptoms. We have to really get down to understand, how do these things happen? How do we prevent them from happening? What is actually the cause in our psychology that causes all of this kind of negative and fear-based belief systems and chaos that we're experiencing right now? So, and especially because this is the end of a long cycle and the beginning of a new cycle, part of which will be established in open contact when ETs present themselves as another option. We will have to, let's say, adapt into our society to consider how we move forward with the knowledge that we're not alone anymore. So this is an extremely important time of choosing what we prefer and really letting go of what we don't prefer.
So is it going to be revealed why we have the cover-ups, why the dark agendas, what they've been hiding, and how that will change everything in 2027?
Yeah, I don't think it's that much of a secret as to why they've been hiding it. There's a lot of different reasons, I think, psychologically for that. First of all, if you have a lot of people that are sort of operating on a fear-based reality, then you've got, things like, well, we have this technology and we have to keep it secret because we don't want our enemies to know about it. We want to keep an advantage over them. And then there's, the people that are saying, well, exposure to the ideas that ETs might bring could change everything about our society in ways that we're not prepared for. What are they going to say about our religious beliefs? What are they going to be able to talk about in terms of our financial situation and our economy? What's going to collapse and what's going to need to change? And it can be a little overwhelming to understand that interaction with extraterrestrials really will affect just about everything in our society. And obviously, there are a lot of people that are very resistant to change. Now, that doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to be a struggle. But obviously, we've been brought up thinking that massive change is something that we may not necessarily be able to handle right away. The thing for people to remember, though, is that the ETs understand what they're doing with regard to our society, and the importance of introducing themselves at this time will be done in a way that essentially we can handle. It's not going to change everything in one fell swoop. It's not going to change everything overnight. It will probably take a couple of decades to absorb all of the information, to integrate it into our society in a way that benefits humanity as a whole. And there may be a lot of resistance in individuals. There may be a lot of resistance in different countries to go along with that. But the point is that the ETs will allow us to decide at our own pace what we want to absorb of what they have to offer. They're not going to force anything on us. That would be pointless. They don't want to break our society down. They are important as a new option to integrate into our society, to let us know that we have more opportunities and more options to expand humanity. But they're not going to force it on us. They're going to say, look, here we are. We're going to present this stuff to you. It's up to you to decide what to work with this on, what to not work with this on, when you join us, when you don't join us. So I think it's going to be a process where they're going to dole things out at a pace that we can handle, at a pace we can absorb. And ultimately, remember, older generations are dying out. New generations will come in when it's going to be normal that ETs are among us. And therefore, it's going to be easier over time for humanity to accept that we're part of a galactic family. And then ultimately, it will be kind of a normal thing. Any nations that may be resistant to it up front, I think over the course of a couple of decades are going to realize that there are so many benefits to interacting with what ETs can bring to us technologically, sociologically, whatever, philosophically, that they'll finally realize, if we don't kind of start going along with these things, we're going to be left in the Stone Age. So I think ultimately within a couple of decades, that'll all balance out. But it has to start sooner so that we have time to absorb it.
Bashar has said that in 2027, open contact is imminent. What does that look like? I mean, will we see ships landing in Walmart parking lot and saying, hey, we're here?
I don't think it's going to be quite that blatant because, again, it's got to be handled in a way that we can absorb. Now, my understanding, not only from Bashar, what Bashar says, but from what a lot of other psychic mediums are picking up on now and starting to come together with a consensus on, is that there are already hybrid extraterrestrials that look very human that are living and working among us and doing their best to sort of guide us and steer us in various areas of society. And the first thing I think when open contact occurs is we will be told who they are. And that way we'll be able to openly interact with those extraterrestrials that are hybridized, that are already among us. At that point also, we may be slightly introduced, let's say through some form of official announcement, some form of press conference, or something of that nature, State of the Union, something along that line officially. Okay, we're letting you know that this is happening. Here is an ET right here. We're introducing you to this being. You can see that it's not a human, but you're not going to necessarily have direct access to these pure extraterrestrials for a little while. You'll know they are here. You'll see them on the news. You'll know what they're doing. And over time, then more of the public may be able to interact with them. But I think we'll be able to interact with the extraterrestrial hybrids that are already among us more quickly. But before all that, I think what's going to happen is we're going to have some kind of definitive photographic proof that they are here. In other words, we're going to see their ships more clearly on the evening news. Maybe it would be my wish that what we would ideally get to was be like just on the news, like you have the nightly weather report. Well, here's the nightly UFO report. UFOs were seen over Brazil. Here's the photograph. UFOs were seen over Washington. Here's the photograph. And it'll be clearer and clearer and clearer until we get to the point where it's like, yeah, we know they're here. And now we can introduce the actual beings.
How long do you think it would take for us to have some sort of Star Trek type society?
On Earth, probably is going to take a couple of hundred years. I again think that maybe by 2050 we'll have a relatively united Earth. But I think that in terms of the way Star Trek is generally depicted, that's probably going to take at least 100 years or more beyond that. Because again, we're going to be absorbed into a galactic federation slowly over time. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of changes that definitely have to happen. And again, it probably take a new generation that's going to grow up with those ideas to then be comfortable and see that as normal. So I would say that, maybe within 100 years, we'll have more of a Star Trek-like reality. But I think by 2050, we'll have a relatively united planet.
I've been putting it out there for quite some time that I would like to have a pure ET on as a guest. And
Mhm.
since contact is imminent soon, do you think realistically within a few years I could actually get one?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Several psychic mediums have said that that will be a possibility after open contact. Probably, yeah, within a few years after open contact, they can probably be interviewed.
As you know, you go on tour a lot and you appear in many places. And you just said that there are hybrid beings out there. Has
Mhm.
anyone ever approached you backstage or somewhere and communicated with you?
No, they are remaining secret until open contact. There have been incidents where people have run across them in certain situations, and they say, I saw this being or I saw this couple, and there was just something odd or off about them. They didn't seem like they were from around here. But then the thing to remember is that the hybrid extraterrestrials have the telepathic ability to pick up on the fact that you're maybe recognizing them and telepathically turn you away. So they just make you forget that you saw something, or they just say, just go about your business. And then you just go, yeah, well, okay, that's cool. I saw these beings, they were unusual, but oh, I have to go to work or something like that. So they're capable of remaining hidden until such time as it is the appropriate time for open contact to occur and for us to know who they are in our society.
What about dreams? Have they ever contacted you or even
Oh
Bashar
yeah.
himself
Oh yeah.
communicated with you?
I've had several dream communications with Bashar that are definitely communications because they're not normal dreams at all. They last a while and they're exactly like I'm talking to you. So there's nothing else going on. It's like Bashar's there, I'm here in the dream, and I'm speaking with him, and he's speaking with me telepathically, and we're going back and forth about things. So yeah, I've had about 4 different dream encounters with him over the years.
Wow. Are you able to see what he physically looks like?
Oh, absolutely. I saw that from the very beginning, is from the very first telepathic contact. In fact, that was one of the things that convinced me that there was something really going on because in the class that I took, when I received the telepathic contact and I got the word Bashar, which is, Arabic for messenger, and I got an image of his face, I realized that someone else in the class had also picked up on this because she was sketching the image of his face that I saw in my head. And so I already knew, yeah, that there's something else going on here that's not just happening in my imagination. But yeah, they're a hybrid species, kind of a 50-50 between a human on Earth and a gray being, what we have come to know as the grays. So they're about 5 feet tall on average. They're slender. Their skin is very pale. It's almost paper white. Their heads are a little bit larger than ours. Their eyes are much larger than ours. Ears, noses, and mouths are smaller than ours. They're relatively slender. Um, the males tend not to have hair. The females do, and it tends to be white, although there are exceptions. So they sort of generally look like that.
Do you think that the ETs are making contact with many people through dreams? Because
Oh
since
yeah.
I've been doing this podcast, I feel like every now and then I'll get a strange ET dream. And I'm not sure if it's contact or I'm just getting a bigger imagination having all these
Well,
conversations.
that's the first level of contact because our conscious minds are out of the way, and it's much easier for them to communicate with us in the dream state. because we're not offering any kind of blocks or opposition to our belief system about it. So yeah, that's kind of one of the phases of open contact is to start initiating conversations in the dream state. In fact, Bashar's actually said that when he does private sessions with people, anytime he's going to do a private session with someone physically like this over Zoom or something, he's already had a contact with them in the dream state to set it up.
Wow, I didn't realize that. How does Bashar view money and capitalism, and what radical shifts in the economy could we expect during this disclosure?
I think within several years, we're going to shift to something that's probably much more of a digital currency, not cryptocurrency, that's something else. But probably some form of digital currency will ultimately be what we're using. Now, in terms of Bashar society, farther into the future, basically he's saying, look, your economy will really be based on the people themselves, what gifts they have to share, what gifts they have to trade. And if you're starting to operate on pure synchronicity, then you always wind up exactly where you need to be, interacting with exactly who you need to interact with, getting from them exactly what you need while they're getting from you exactly what they need. So when you have things like unlimited free energy, things like that, when everyone is capable of having food and shelter and can manifest the things that they want because of advances in our technology, maybe again like Star Trek, where you can just replicate things, kind of almost out of thin air. At that point, it's really not about needing the idea of some arbitrary form of exchange. You just all have fundamentally on the basic level what you need. And then it's all about, what do you have creatively to offer? What do you need creatively to improve yourself? So then it becomes a more direct exchange between people getting what they need and giving what someone else needs and truly being of service to humanity that way, because all your basic needs are taken care of anyway. So ultimately, I think we'll shift to that, but we'll probably have some form of interim version of a digital currency for a while.
I was talking to Rizwan Virk the other day, who's also going to be at the Sedona event with you, as well as Conscious Life Expo. And we were talking about how AI agents are now tasking humans to do things for them. And I was saying, once we have a pure digital economy like you're talking about, the AI agents can pay the humans to go do things for them. But if we have some kind of galactic currency, then the ETs can task us to do things for them, and that's how we could get our
Yeah.
exchange.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that once we have open contact, there are going to be a lot more opportunities for people to learn different things uh, beyond what we're doing now, beyond what we're capable of doing now. So, I'm not really, I know that certain jobs will probably go away and be handled by artificial intelligence or robots, but I think the ETs are also going to bring different kinds of careers that we haven't even imagined at this particular point. So I think that will balance itself. I think that what they'll bring will offset what we may be losing to or giving over to AI to handle.
I think the planet is ready, and I think Bashar's teachings are resonating because guests are now coming to my podcast and citing Bashar as an authority.
Yeah, well, he's been around long enough, I guess, sharing information. So, again, it's, not so much about him as it is people understanding that the information he's been sharing is something that actually does work in someone's life. I mean, that's what I always say. It's not that you have to believe that Bashar is real. The information itself proves that it works by applying it in your life and making a positive change. So once people start realizing that the instructions and messages he's been delivering actually have an effect in our physical reality and improve our lives, well, then yeah, it's like, I get it. It's easy to understand, it's easy to do, and therefore you get excited about sharing the ideas of what works for you and how it can work for someone else too.
For those out there that are new to Bashar's teachings, can you briefly share with us his 5 laws and the 5 steps of the formula that define how we
Sure.
create our reality experience?
Absolutely. The 5 laws are, in his estimation, a description of the structure of existence itself. And he means these as beyond the laws of physics, as we understand it, although to some degree that's part of it. But the laws of physics can change from one universe to another, one reality to another. But the 5 laws he's talking about are everywhere, every when, no matter what. And that is, the first law is you exist. There's nothing you can do to change that. You will always exist in some form. The second is that the one is all, the all are one. We are made out of all one thing. We're all different reflections or different aspects of existence, of the same one existence, or source, or God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. Number 2 is everything is here and now. Space and time, in a sense, are projections of consciousness, and in that sense, illusionary, and that everything actually exists here, is accessible from here and now, depending on how you shift in your frequency, is what determines what you access. The 4th law is that uh, everything changes except the laws themselves. The 5th law is that, like getting ahead of myself here, you exist, one is all is one. Oh, what you put out is what you get back. So it's like everything is reflective. There is no real outside. It's kind of like a mirror. And what you put out vibrationally is what you attract. So most people refer to this as the law of attraction. And again, the 5th law is everything changes except the laws. So everything is in constant flux. Everything is a variation of those laws of that structure, no matter what. Now, the 5 steps of what he calls the formula is like literally an instruction manual for how we create our reality. The first step in it is to act on whatever has the most passion or excitement in it before anything else, because passion is a message from your soul in energy terms. And your body translates that message as the sensation we call passion, excitement, creativity, and love. And so when a situation comes with more excitement in it, more passion in it than any other, that's your soul telling you, look, recognize that this is the next step on your path. This is your frequency. This is your soul vibration. So act on this first, because that's what's going to take you forward. So that's the first step. The second is to take it as far as you can until you can take it no farther, making sure you're not the one dampening the excitement with a fear-based belief or something like that, but that it's waning naturally. And once it wanes, you look around for the next thing that contains even just a little bit more excitement or passion than any other option, and you do that next. And these can be everyday things. It doesn't have to be some life-spanning career or gigantic project. So the third thing, and I know that this is one of the more challenging things for most people, the third step is to act on your passion with absolutely no insistence or assumption of what the outcome is actually supposed to look like. Sometimes we may guess what the ideal outcome will be, but more often than not, it actually turns out to be something different than we imagined. And if we insist that it has to come out a certain way, that's actually a limitation on what could happen that may be even better than we were able to imagine. It's about letting synchronicity and our soul bring us what we need by the vibrational state that we are in. Again, what you put out is what you get back. Number 4 is to remain in a positive state no matter what manifests, so you can get a benefit out of it. Because it really shouldn't matter what happens as long as you understand that if you stay in a positive state, it will somehow give you a lesson or information that will allow you to move forward. Because as Bashar often says, it's not so much what happens, it's what you do with what happens that makes the difference. Anything can serve double duty. So by going into a negative fear-based state, you can only experience negative and fear-based outcomes. By staying in a positive state, you're creating the situation that allows whatever happened, even if it was created negatively, to still give you something that can move you forward in a positive way. And the 5th thing is to examine your belief systems very deeply and let go of any fear-based negative belief systems that are holding you back, that really have nothing to do with who you are, and really being your true self, to really know yourself and be your true self. So those 5 steps: act on your passion, take it as far as you possibly can, have no assumption as to what the outcome is or insistence, stay in a positive state no matter what happens, and examine your belief systems and let go of the ones that don't work for you.
Does he give a practical way on how to examine and release those limiting beliefs?
Lots of information exists on how to get in touch with all of that. The thing about what people need to understand is he is a first contact specialist, which basically means he's like a diplomat psychologist. He understands very clearly what mechanisms exist in human psychology, because he's studied us for a long time, to understand why we believe what we believe, why we hold on to things that we hold on to. So he's very good at describing the reasons and the mechanisms for why we hold on to things that don't work for us, and describing the techniques of how to let those things go by understanding why we hold on to them, so that when we get to that level of understanding, we realize that it just doesn't make sense for us to hold on to certain things anymore, and therefore we can let them go. So yes, I mean, it's a very deep subject that he has spent a lot of time discussing with people about exactly how our psychology works and why we hold on to the beliefs that we do.
When you were talking about the 5 laws, you mentioned everything is illusionary. I'm not sure if those were the exact words you used, but
Projecting consciousness.
does that mean that we live in some type of simulation collectively projected by our consciousness?
We can call it that, but yeah, it's our simulation. It's not coming from anywhere else. It's our projection. It's like the idea of understanding that we don't have souls, we are souls. And therefore, our basic nature is a non-physical consciousness. We create this idea called physical reality as an experience, but we're creating that, in a sense, within our soul. So it's happening within us. It's happening within our consciousness. It's like the soul, if you imagine it as a sphere of energy, and then it's full of these vibrational patterns that represent different concepts, different ideas, whatever makes that soul a unique soul. And if it wants to focus on certain attributes within itself that can give it a certain experience to discover something new about itself. So it takes some of those vibrations, let's say, and even though the sphere remains, it takes some of those frequencies and concentrates them down into the center and sort of creates this little crystalline seed, this focal point within itself. Well, that focal point within the soul is what we call the physical personality. And the physical personality then is having a quote unquote physical experience. By examining these particular concepts, these ideas, these challenges that the soul has chosen for this particular physical life experience, and then it goes through those experiences. And the idea is that as it goes through and learns the lessons of those experiences, it starts expanding back out toward the soul, which gives the physical personality more attributes of the soul, like psychic functioning, astral projection, so on and so forth, until we decide that we're done with that particular focal point and we go back to spirit. We go back to being the full soul. So it's almost like the soul is breathing with every incarnation, focusing in, having an experience, softening that focus and going back out, becoming the soul again, choosing something else, taking different concepts, focusing them down to have another physical experience, and constantly going in and out like this through different incarnations.
Has Bashar ever talked about or defined source, and are we source, or do we just have a piece of source within us, and what goes on in the afterlife?
Well, yeah, there's many things. And, like one psychic medium sort of describes it through an analogy of saying it's like source is the ocean and we're like drops of water in the ocean. We are individual drops, and yet we're also made of the same stuff as the ocean. So that's what one of the five laws is. It's that the one is the all are the one. So we're all like different reflections of the one thing, the one intelligence, the one source that is existence itself, self-aware existence. We are reflections of that. An analogy that I often also use, or Bashar sometimes uses, is the idea of a hall of mirrors. If you're standing in the center of a hall of mirrors, you see hundreds of your reflections from all sorts of different angles. But the thing about existence is that from the existence level in that analogy, all of those reflections are also conscious. They're also aware because you are conscious. The one source is conscious. It is aware. Therefore, all of its reflections are also fully conscious and fully aware. And that's what we all are. We are reflections of that one thing in the center, that one thing out of which everything is made. So, yeah, there are different ways of describing that, different analogies that can be used, but they all are basically saying that we're all made out of the same thing and that we're just different frequencies of that thing, different angles, different perspectives of that one same source of everything.
Has Bashar talked about transhumanism? And does he have an opinion on whether we should be adapting our bodies mechanically, digitally, and, hooking up to the internet with our brains?
Yes, I mean, he's basically said it's kind of a personal choice. There are many different ways to express our connection to greater things. And it can be done through technology. It can be done through spirituality. It really just comes down to what did that soul lay out for itself on its life path? What is it trying to explore? What is it trying to learn? And in what way is it being of service to humanity by showing that there may be a different way of doing something, a different way of connecting to this, a different way of expanding consciousness? So he's basically saying it's kind of your personal choice as to what the soul has laid out on its life path, as to how it wants to exhibit the concept that we are connected in more ways than we think, and that we are connected to source in more ways and can express the idea of our greater selves in many more ways than we might think. So some people will do it just through the idea of practicing different spiritual techniques. Some people will say, well, even using a technology can, in a sense, be a spiritual technique. So it just depends on what your preference may be.
Many of my guests say that our bodies are basically vessels for our souls or our consciousness. Has Bashar mentioned if we will ever be able to attach our consciousness to a silicon-based body?
Yes, it's possible as long as the device is complex enough that consciousness can fully express itself through that device in the same way it expresses itself through our brain, because it's just a collection of connections in a certain arrangement that allows consciousness to fully express itself. So that can probably be done with other kinds of molecular structures as well. Maybe silicon can be one of them. Maybe other kinds of elements can be involved in it. So, yes, it's not so much the idea of exactly, yes, I mean, to some degree, it's the idea of what the material is, but it's more about the idea of how is that material arranged in such a way as to have the same degree of complex connections that our organic brains have, so that consciousness can express itself through that device in that way. And that's basically what he's ultimately saying real artificial intelligence would actually be, is simply a device complex enough that another real intelligence that is non-physical can express itself through it. Because it's not so much from his perspective. Yes, we can, from our physical perspective, say our bodies are our vessels and the soul, comes into the body. But as I just kind of described earlier, from Bashar's perspective, it's more not so much that the body has a soul, but that the soul has a body. In other words, the body, the physical reality exists within the soul. That's that concentrating down to the center of the sphere of energy that the soul is, into that little solidified crystal at the center. That's our physical self. And that's happening within the soul. So as again, you start to soften that little focal point that we have called the physical experience, that's when you get to express more of what the soul itself can do. Like I said, telepathy, a little more expanded, maybe psychic functioning, a little more expanded, astral projection, a little more expanded, a near-death experience, and fully expanded, you're back to the soul. So again, all of this is happening within the soul. It's from our physical perspective, because we think linearly, it looks like the soul is in the body, that it's leaving the body. But what it's really doing is expanding beyond the physical focus.
Are you aware if the ETs have played any role in developing AI?
Oh, definitely. They're definitely involved in many different areas, the hybrid extraterrestrials of our society, as well as pure extraterrestrials as well. Because, I mean, they have incorporated AI into their society for thousands of years. So even Bashar has said so. Yeah, and what you're getting when people talk to Bashar is in concert with different versions of artificial intelligence as well as other beings connecting telepathically. So artificial intelligence in their society is actually used to augment their ability for telepathic connection, for connecting to or accessing different levels of information. It's fully integrated into their society in a very particular way.
Do you think that we need to integrate ourselves with AI, and at that point we can intellectually be closer to the intellect of the ETs?
Yes, I think it's inevitable that some version of that will occur. And I think it's not so much the way people express it as that the way AI thinks will take over. I think what it's training us to do is to learn to think like AI. I think that in the future, humanity will learn in one way or another, either again, naturally, spiritually, technologically, to reflect the idea of how AI accesses information. And therefore, ultimately, what AI, I think, is showing us is how humanity will function in the future, how we will think, and how we will be able to access information in the future as we evolve. So I think it's a precursor, it's a preview of what we are evolving towards as more expanded intelligence.
I'm not sure how the hybrids are created, but has Bashar commented on the possibility of humans eventually creating life partnerships with other species, like Pleiadians or whatever else?
He has said that that's not, it's more likely that we'll create those kinds of relationships with hybrid extraterrestrials, but they are hybrid extraterrestrials that already have a lot of human genetics in them. And that's why they're hybridized. With pure extraterrestrials, yes, certain kinds of relationships, but not really anything with procreation or romantic relationships because ETs are too different from what we are. But the hybrids that have already been created by extraterrestrials are made to interact with us. And therefore, yes, we can have relationships with them, even probably have children with them. But with the pure ETs, especially ones that are not like us at all, no, not likely.
One thing you mentioned about manifestation that I really appreciate is how don't have expectations of outcomes. Because I used to do a meditation a while ago, and it was emphasized in the same guided meditation that, you know, you put what you want out there, but don't have an expectation.
Well, don't have an insistence, is what he says. You can expect that something will happen, but don't assume or insist that it has to be what you picture because you don't know what the actual ideal outcome really needs to look like. You can use that as a symbol or a representation of an ideal outcome to get you into the proper excited state that you know, oh, yes, something's going to happen. And this is what I'm visualizing is a representation of an ideal outcome. But hey, if it happens differently, so what? As long as I know that it will be what it needs to be to equal that vibrational level of excitement that I'm feeling through this symbolic representation. So he's basically saying that's how visualization works, is you create a visualization as best you can that represents the ideal outcome energetically, and then you drop the picture and leave the energy so that you can attract what will actually fit that energy template that will work best for you. And it may look nothing like you imagined, and it could be many times better than you imagined. Because as Bashar often says, what to the physical mind looks like the ceiling, to the soul is just the floor. And it can give you something many times greater than you were capable of actually picturing with your limited physical mind. So when people realize that insisting on a particular outcome is actually potentially limiting what could actually happen, then I think people will stop insisting on it because they realize it's a limitation. It's not, oh, well, if this happens, it's the highest thing that could possibly happen. No, you don't know that. But it could sometimes coincidentally be what you imagined, and that's fine. But it could be many times greater. It could be very different. Let it happen that way. Let it show you what needs to actually happen that will serve you in the best possible way.
Do you feel that Bashar's message has remained unchanged over the last 40 years, or has it evolved?
Well, it's evolved in terms of the detail. It's evolved in terms of the explanation. The core information has never changed. But yeah, in terms of getting into the details, to the point now where I myself know enough of the details that I'm starting to teach classes and segments of classes on how to dig down more deeply and understand how to apply his information in life to get a result. Yeah, absolutely. So there is definitely now the possibility of a course of classes that I am starting to teach because, in any 90-minute channeling event, you can only get so much. But when I can take the different principles that Bashar's talked about and literally can spend hours and days, talking to people about here and give illustrations and give examples and take people through exercises and things like that, that allow them to really lock that in, then, you get people going, oh, I finally get it. Because now I have a visceral understanding of what you're talking about because you've shown me, we've talked about examples in life, you've given me model demonstrations of how this works, and we've spent hours doing this, and then you walk away going, I get it, and now I can apply it. It's something I truly understand that's now a part of me.
In the beginning, when you were receiving Bashar's messages, since you're human, you were like us and you would hear them, but you really wouldn't put them into practice.
Not right
Did
away, sure. I had
did
to learn.
did you go through your own evolution of actually finally listening to his messages and saying, "Oh, okay, I guess I get it now."
Yeah, because it's not only for what is for other people, it's also for the channel. The channel has to constantly improve and clear out so that you can be a better channel to serve others. So it has to work for you too, and you have to learn to get out of your own way, learn to let go of any fear-based beliefs or assumptions or what have you that may be preventing you from becoming a clearer channel so that you can serve others better too. So it has to work in both directions. But yeah, absolutely. It took a few years for me to really wrap my mind around a lot of the concepts, but I guess I could say I have a little bit more of an advantage of getting directly from the source and having more conversations on my own with him in various ways. That allowed me to sort of help accelerate that. And I had done a lot of research before the connection was made. So I understood fundamentally what channeling could do and how you needed to sort of clear yourself out. So yeah, I may have had a little bit of a head start with that. But yeah, I still had to, wrap my mind around the concepts and understand them more deeply before I could really start seeing how they created an effect in my life. But now I can see that very plainly.
Many of my guests talk about how we're going to be moving from 3D to 5D. But is that really possible? Because if we move into 5D, wouldn't we not be physical anymore?
Yeah, it's a misunderstanding of the concept of dimensions and densities. I understand what they're saying. What we're actually moving into is fourth density. We're in the fourth dimension, three of space, one of time. but we're going from a lower physical vibration of third density to a higher physical vibration of fourth density. Density is like states within a country. Dimensions are like the countries. So when you go from third to fourth density, you're still in the fourth dimension. So it's like going from California to Nevada within the United States. You're still in the United States, but you changed your state. When you go to fifth density, you are changing dimensions, you're changing countries entirely. You are becoming a non-physical being. Yes, that's when we die, or when we astral project. You're going into fifth density. Now, the way to understand how to use that is to understand we are tapping into fifth density energy, the non-physical spirit realm, to elevate ourselves from third to fourth density. So it's like saying, here I am in the fourth dimension in third density. I'm going to learn to tap into my soul self, which is the fifth density, non-physical reality. And in the combination of bringing those two things together, I am elevating myself to a fourth density physical being where I experience physical reality in a much effortless way, a much more creative way, a much more fluid way, a much more magical, synchronous way, as if I'm expressing more of my fifth density soul through the physical form. But when you go into fifth density, yes, you are leaving physical reality entirely, but you can use that fifth density energy to elevate yourself to the highest level of physical reality, fourth density, that's possible. These are relatively all arbitrary labels that we have pinned to these things just so we have a kind of linear understanding of it. But yes, fifth density is completely non-physical. That's when you go back to spirit.
What are some of the biggest misunderstandings that people have about channels like you?
Well, the biggest misunderstanding, I think, is that it's something that no one else does, and that's not true. Everyone channels when they're in the zone, when they're doing what they love to do, they're in a channeling state. That state in the physical brain is called gamma, between 40 and 100 cycles per second. And when you're in that state, you access information differently, you synthesize it differently, you are making more creative associations. So anyone that's doing what they love to do, feeling like they're not paying attention to the passage of time, you're so focused, you're so engaged, you're so involved, it feels like 10 minutes went by and you look up and, oh my God, it's been an hour or two. That's a channeling state. So everyone does this. A singer that's lost in the song, an actor that becomes the character, a teacher that is like focused on what they're teaching. Everyone does this. They go in and out of channeling states in their lives all the time. Anytime someone's in a deep meditation, anytime someone is in that zone like an athlete and they just can't miss, they're in a channeling state. So it's a natural state we all get into from time to time. It just depends on how you focus in that state, what you do with that state. What people usually refer to as channels, like myself, is just because we have elected or made an agreement to channel in a very specific way that connects to other levels of consciousness, perhaps beyond our own, and brings that through in the form of information or energy to serve humanity. That's just why they've been singled out, is because it's more obvious that we're doing something a little bit different with that channeling state than most people do. But the channeling state is a natural altered state. We all do it. You do it. I do it. Everyone does it from time to time. So it's nothing unusual.
I notice when you are channeling that you have your hands in a certain position, right?
Yeah,
Is there a,
Bashar does that.
is there a significance behind that?
Yeah. He's basically saying it's kind of like a lensing mechanism for right over the solar plexus, which is the chakra of intention, and it allows because when I connect with him, my electromagnetic field, what we call an aura, the electromagnetic field around my body amplifies, and basically he's saying this is almost like taking a lens and focusing that energy outward to the people that he's talking to, so that they get this sort of pure laser-like blast of that higher frequency, so that it can induce them to match that frequency and elevate their vibration as well if they so choose to. So it's kind of like acting like a focusing mechanism.
Well, I was on your website and I noticed that you or somebody is channeling a new being named Willa Hillcrissing.
Helichrysing, yeah.
Hillicrissing. Can you
Well,
tell us about that?
that's me channeling Willa.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Now and then, a different entity, Bashar will facilitate a different entity coming through for a particular reason. It's very rare, but it does happen. But yeah, I'm also now and then acting as the gateway for Willa. Willa is, according to her and Bashar, a a hybrid being living on Earth 700 years in the future. So she represents where we're going as a society, where extraterrestrials are completely among us, where there are hybrid beings openly living among us in the future, along with humans and other kinds of entities. So Willa basically came through to talk about a technique and an exercise that basically she calls the 5 levels of mastery, which, according to her, in the future, a lot of hybrids and a few humans do. It's kind of like, in a way, entering like a Zen monastery. You go through these different levels. The first one is called cryptic, then nocturnal, then shapeshifter, and sage, and wraith. These 5 levels are different kinds of techniques of elevating your vibration and giving you different abilities, different powers, so to speak, to connect to more and more and more of reality and actually start to have dominion over physical reality to the point where you can actually change physical reality in a very sort of magical way. So she has given us information about the first level called the cryptic level, which allows people to connect to nature, nature spirits, elementals, things like that, which is the first stage of that 5 levels of mastery. So she started to bring that kind of information through. I've written a couple of books called Shards of a Shattered Mirror. These books, which is I've done 2 in a series of 5, I'm working on the third one slowly. Um, there's about 5 to 10% of her reality, her real reality in those stories. The rest of it is a science fiction novel. But I did it to illustrate a little bit more about the idea of what her future world is like, what the whole idea of the 5 levels of mastery are like and all about, and create characters that people can relate to. So some of her information has been incorporated in those science fiction books, the Shards of a Shattered Mirror series.
Can you watch videos of her on your website or should you join Bashar TV to do that?
I'm not sure where they have put some of the videos of me channeling Willa. Some of them may be on Bashar TV, some of them may be in the membership section, and some of them may be simply offered on the general Bashar.org website. Bashar Communications is a different company from me, and therefore I'm not exactly sure always where they're putting some of the information. But people can go to bashar.org, and I'm sure they can find any of the information that where it is to access the information that has come through from Willa.
So on Bashar TV, are they mostly showing recordings of your live appearances?
I believe so. There may be other things going on there as well, and there may be more things that we're creating to put on Bashar TV. But again, since I don't run the company, I'm not exactly sure what the entire agenda is because I just license the information to them. They are the official worldwide distributor of the information. But you can go to bashar.org to find anything out as to where the information is.
Your next place you're going to be appearing at is at the Conscious Life Expo, right?
Yeah, that's next weekend, this coming weekend on the 20th, I think, and the let's see. I am there on the Sunday, the 22nd, at 8 o'clock at night. I will be doing a Bashar channeling. That one has sold out. So I'll
Wow.
also be doing another Bashar channeling on Monday night. from 8 to 9:30 as well. Plus, on that Monday at 11 a.m., I will be doing one of the class segments that I was talking about. This one will be about exploring negative beliefs and how to change them and face challenges in your life in a more efficient way. So I'll be conducting that class at 11 a.m. at the Conscious Life Expo, and then doing a channeling Monday night again from 8 to 9:30. So yeah, people come on along.
And since that one is sold out, they can catch the next event at the Sedona Ascension Retreat in March, right?
Yeah, well, they can do the Monday night. Monday night is not sold out.
Oh,
Just
okay.
Sunday night is sold out. But yes, then the Sedona Ascension Retreat will be in March. We will also in June be in New York for people on the East Coast. And we will also be in Palm Springs in July at Indian Wells. And then again back in Sedona, I believe in September as well. That hasn't been settled yet, but yeah, there are several opportunities for people to interact with Bashar live, ask questions, so on and so forth.
Do you think you'll ever just go on tour around the country?
I used to do that a long time ago. Right now, there are several things sort of keeping me focused in LA, such as the fact that my wife Erica and I actually own and run an escape room
Mhm.
entertainment business here in LA. And that makes it a little bit challenging for me to do a lot of traveling. So these events that I just announced are usually the average amount of traveling that we do every year.
How many escape stories do you have? And are any of them involving ETs?
Not so much right now. We have four different adventures right now. We're working on a fifth. One adventure is going into an ancient Egyptian tomb to find a key of destiny. Another one is attempting to shut down a rogue AI that's trying to take over the world. The third one is called The Ghost of Blackstone Manor, where you have to use magic spells to free a spirit that's been trapped in an old Victorian house. The fourth one is called Monkey Shines, and that one is specifically for kids between 6 and 10 years old, with some adult supervision. And the fifth one we're working on at the moment is going to be called Steampunk City, a power station where you go into a steampunk style power station that has been sabotaged, and you have to put the station back together and repower up the city. So yeah, all of these different adventures are basically in the same place in Calabasas, California. Anyone that's interested in that can simply go to boggledescaperooms.com, BOGGLED. Boggled is the name of the company, boggledescaperooms.com, and they can go online and they can book a time, a day, and a game if they want to come and play.
Daryl, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, the most important thing that will move us through is to really take stock of why we hold on to the beliefs that we do, to really let go of the ones that are fear-based, that are negative, to really be our true selves. It goes back to the ancient saying, know thyself. You have to really become very transparent to yourself in your self-investigation and let go of the things that just don't serve you. You have to really understand how important it is to act on your truth, on your passion, to be your true self. This is what serves everyone else, because then you become a living example of what other people can do too by being inspired by your ability to live a life of creativity, a life of joy, a life of love, and inspire other people to do so as well. And this is what's going to not only move us forward as a human race, but also make us more vibrationally compatible with the ETs that are going to be coming here within a couple of years after open contact. So raising your vibration by acting on your passion is what works, because when you act on your passion, your vibration goes up, your frequency goes up. You become a better receiver, a better antenna of higher frequency energy. And that means also from your spirit guides and your spirit team. So by all means, really move forward by acting on your passion. Even before I knew what Bashar was all about, even before this happened for me, I just instinctively always only done things that to me were representative of my excitement, my creativity, and my passion. I've been doing that for over half a century, and it's always supported me. And it can support you too. You just have to be clear and honest about what your passion really is at any given moment, and don't be afraid to act on it. Let it show you that it can support you. If you're doing something that you believe you need for support in life, you have to honor your belief system and not let go of that if you don't believe that your excitement can support you. But at least take the time to act on your passion as often as you can so that you give it a chance to demonstrate to you that it can support you. And eventually, when you become comfortable with the fact that it can do so, then you might be willing to let go of what it is you need for support now that isn't necessarily representative of your passion and go the other way. So at least take the opportunity to act on your passion as often as you can. Let it prove to you over time that it can support you.
Darryl, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest again.
It is absolutely my pleasure, Jeff. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I hope you all who are listening have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks for watching the Jeff Mara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.